Hello guys, I'm Chris with M7 Metalworks, and this is my 1961 International C110. And today I'd like to get a little bit of work done on it. I'd like to get the gas tank pulled out, and I want to redo my fuel system. The truck has definitely got some heat soak and some vapor lock issues. I've got metal lines running through here to the fuel pump. The fuel pump I've already taken off. Fuel pump is here. It's not what is supposed to be on there, but it does work. I mean, it's got the proper fitting here. It's just this is supposed to be, they have an offset on these because this really interferes with the motor mount on the front. But it can't go in there, and it was in there. And it went down in there, and I doubt you can see any of that. It's just too dark. But anyways, I'd like to do some things to this fuel tank and the fuel system, the fuel lines, to get that where it doesn't vapor lock. It's just a fuel filter, a Wix fuel filter. There's the number right there, 33040. And this extra nipple on that filter is supposed to allow that fuel vapor to escape that. The problem is I have to I have to run that line back to the fuel tank. This is a 1961 fuel tank. And the good news, guys, is it's draining nice and clean gas. So I didn't necessarily expect that. All right, so the next thing on the agenda is to get this off. Already broke it loose. It didn't take a ton to break it loose. It was already. And then I've already taken the 4 sheet metal screws that were in there. So I'll take the bolt that's in that right there, and I'll take it out. We'll put our jack underneath this and see if we can lower it. Hey guys, I just pulled this out from underneath. I just realized I wasn't videoing, so there's my sending unit. I just had to disconnect that, just a single wire, and then I have 2 spots here. Pull you up a little bit for that. So I said that I didn't have a vent. I'm thinking I was wrong, because that looks like a vent tube to me. And of course my pickup line was down on the bottom. So. Okay guys, I've got a light here. Kind of help you guys get a little bit of a visual inside the tank. So it's not terrible, but it's not great either. Obviously it could be a lot worse. Okay, that's looking down the tank. You can see down towards the end. It has no baffles in this tank. I think I mentioned that before, but down toward the end, that's where that box there is where the pickup tube goes into. I don't know how well it's going to show up on camera, but the top side of the tank is worse than the bottom. But it isn't terrible. The tank's extremely restorable. See, the exterior part of the tank is pretty good. I mean, it's dirty, but it's had some kind of a, looks like paint, and on the bottom there's some coating. There's some overspray from when the guy I got it from painted it. Here's our pickup tube right here. And I believe it's a 19-gallon tank according to the specs in the service manual. So that's where my sending unit goes. It was a pretty new sending unit. You can see it right here. Doesn't have to have much of a throw on it because that tank is pretty shallow, 6 inches or so, something like that. So I've ordered a Caswell tank sealer, and we're going to use that on this. I've used Pour 15 in the past. and it's done a good job for me. But I thought I might try something different this time, and I've heard lots of good stuff about the Caswell stuff, so we're going to use it. Well, there was a lot of wind in this particular footage, so just doing a voiceover on this. I'm basically buttoning up the tank in a way that I can spray it, clean it out, and I really want to power wash and just get as much of the crud out of this as possible. But first I'll start off with just using some soap and water. All right, I'm not gonna scrimp on a little bit of dish soap. Start filling it up. I've been rinsing this for a while. I've got the cap where the sending unit would go. I've got just a little metal plate there, and that locked in, so I've been able to shake this thing around with the soapy water in it, and you know, I think I've done a pretty good job at this point of getting it de-oiled or get some of the grease and grime out of it. So now what I'd like to do, I'd like to put in some aggregate. This is just you know, relatively large pea gravel, and it's been tumbled quite a bit. It's actually what I use for knife making in my tumbler. So I hate to use it on this job, but I haven't used it for knife making for a while, and I really do need it for this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drain out just a little bit of water, and I'm sure it won't be very clean because it's a little bit too harsh to be able, or it's a little bit too heavy to be able to move around real easy and shake this up. And I want to use I've been using the seat kind of as a teeter-totter to rock this back and forth and going on all sides. So that's what I'm going to do with the aggregate in there. Gosh, it's coming out pretty clean. Yeah, surprisingly clean. I've got to get some of that weight out of there. All right, very heavy on one end where all the gravel is. I'm doing the top first. What I mean is the gravel is on the top side. The top is currently facing down. So I've still got quite a bit of water in this, and I've got a lot of maybe I'm going to say a half to 3/4 gallon of pea gravel in here, so that's quite a bit. It's just going to act kind of like sandpaper. So we'll see how it looks now. It's a bit difficult to control, so I'm going to do my best. Oh yeah. Yeah, that's a lot more orange. Okay, got you focused mostly at the ground now. Lift the tank. Try to get all the rocks out of here. There's the back end, or that's toward the back where the pickup is. I'm just shining a light in through where the sending unit is. So you can see it's better. It's not perfect. Now we've got to use some acid to eat that rust up. Maybe if I light it up down there just a little bit, kind of give you a little bit of an idea of how it looks inside that tank. So there's a lot of rust in there. And I've got a couple gallons of this evaporate. I'm going to fill it with the 2 gallons, and I'm going to get the whole thing wet. I'm going to slosh the whole thing around and then let it sit on one side. And then every time I turn it, every 6 hours or so, 12 hours through the night, whatever, I'll get up in the morning, I'll slosh it around so that it coats the whole side, the whole inside, but it'll be sitting, one side will be submerged. That's the plan. I actually found a patch job. Let's see if I can show you. Here's the patch job right there. So that's on the end of the tank. And I didn't know anything about that patch job. That's some epoxy that someone's used on there. So it kind of reinforces my desire to coat the interior of this, because I've obviously had one leak. Now I'm going to end up sanding this down, and if need be, I can always throw a skim coat of epoxy on top of that, but I'm also going to be coating the inside of this, so I'm not too concerned about it. My plan is to wire wheel the entire tank, and then I'm going to prime it with some aerospace primer. It's really good about neutralizing rust and then preventing any future rust. And then I'll just put a cheap paint on it. All right, guys, well, it's been several days now. Let me show you the dates we have up here. So 4/18, I've just written all my times and dates down as when I flipped this thing. So you can see the 19th, this is the first day, so that's 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, 4 days, 5 days, 6 days. So it's been 6 days this thing has been cooking. At 7 a.m. this morning is when I flipped it on its right side. So I've had it everywhere, on its ends, everything. And I've got it in front of the heater right now, and I've had it that way about half the time, just because our temperatures dropped here in Indiana. It's still spring. And this stuff is supposed to have 65 degrees, so we're keeping it warm. Okay, guys, I'm not sure how well that showed up in the time warp video, but it came off in sheets almost. I mean, the only thing holding that paint on was gravity, it seems. Alright guys, give you a peek into the tank here. See if I can get that see if I can give you a peek down in here. Way better, guys. The bottom of the tank is being lit up right now with the light. That's the end where the pickup tube is at. Pretty awesome. Well, this is post wire wheeling. I also took a disc sander, orbital disc sander to it, right there. So I just cleaned that up. You can see that it's impregnated fiberglass, so they've impregnated the fiberglass with the epoxy. I suspect, since the patch is right there, that leak was probably right in that area there. Okay, for the safety police out there that are getting ready to start pounding on their keyboards, this has been washed like several times. Power washed, flushed out, There is no fuel in this tank at this point. So there is no chance of combustion. We're just going to heat this thing up a little bit. You can see I'm keeping it moving. I'm not going to try to get crazy on it. Okay, I can already see steam coming out the hole here, so that's a good thing. Okay guys, I'm going to show you some of the results here that we've gotten so far. And they're pretty good, but I'm not 100% happy. If you see down there toward the end, see that kind of baffle area, that's where my fuel pickup line is at. And you can see the rust on the top of that. Plus, we've got rust up on top. And really, it's cleaned most of it really, really well. But there's still some remaining rust. And so, I think for that reason, I'm going to pull out the big guns. Unfortunately, I was trying to avoid using muriatic acid. It works really, really well for rust. But it's also a bit harsh. And it will etch the metal, and that's not a bad thing. When I put the Caswell tank sealer in, that might just help it bond a little better to the tank. So we're going to go ahead and put the muriatic acid in, and I'll probably look to put it on each surface for about 20 minutes. And then we're going to dump it out, and we'll flush it, and then we'll put some phosphoric acid in it. And the phosphoric acid will convert any leftover rust that might be in there to iron phosphate. So we're going to put this muriatic acid in. I'm going to wear gloves. Just it doesn't burn my hands as long as I wash it off pretty quick. But if I touch my clothes after touching that liquid, it'll put a hole in them eventually. So I've got muriatic acid here, same stuff you'd use to clean your concrete with. And then I got after we're done using the muriatic acid, we'll use this concrete and metal prep. This is just phosphoric acid. So this is what's going to convert our rust to iron phosphate. Got a few jars of this in glass like this. So I'm going to do my best to pour this. I've spilled a little already, but that's all right. On a project, and I'm going to use it again on this one. It's just clear. And 2 gallons might be overkill for this, but the more I can put in there, the more coverage it'll give me. All right guys, it's been 52 minutes at this point. I've rotated it numerous times. I've sprung a leak in a few places that I didn't have leaks before. Right here and here, there's a couple little pock. You can see the little pock marks, rust pits, and so that's a thinner area, obviously, but they've sprung a little bit of leak. That's the danger of using muriatic acid. Is it's pretty harsh, so it can eat away at the metal. But I think we're in good shape. I mainly concentrated on getting the top done, and this baffle down here where the pickup tube is at. It had a good bit of rust on it as well, and then I focused on this end down here. Okay guys, I'm just, all I'm doing is brushing this metal prep on to the actual tank. And what this will do is it'll react to any rust that's still on this tank. And there is some, a little bit, there's not a ton, but there's little pockets, little areas that have been eaten away, pits and stuff in the metal. So this will actually react to that rust, and it will convert it to an iron phosphate and hopefully just neutralize that forever. Right now I have the tank filled up with just a little bit of, maybe a 1/4 gallon of this. Once you're done coating it, you just let it dry. This is a paintable surface after you're done. In my case, I will, I've power washed this thing numerous times. I haven't put on video all the times I've power washed this, just because that would just bore you lifeless. But I have power washed this thing numerous times. So this tank is super, super clean. Okay guys, well the tank is done. So I've rinsed it. I put the last thing we did was put the phosphoric acid in there, and I've also coated it. You get that white kind of chalky color, and it makes the silvery metal a little more gray looking too. So let's go ahead and take a look in. I've already taken a peek, so I know what it looks like. Guys, zoomed in here. Okay, see the tank? It is pristine now. Just absolutely pristine. Kind of tough to get you a picture here. It's just super clean. I mean, just fresh metal. All right guys, I've got the tank upright here so that I can pour this stuff in. I'm actually going to turn it this way. I've got all the holes plugged up except for the one I'm going to pour in, which is right here. Got our stuff right here. We're going to mix these parts together and we'll pour it in. 2 minutes of stirring at least is what it says. Trying not to induce bubbles or introduce bubbles into the concoction while we stir. So I think maybe the best way, and I can add some lacquer thinner, which I may end up doing if I feel like it's necessary. It's going to depend on how thick this is. I'm in the garage right now, and it's pretty mildly temperature in here. I couldn't tell you exact temp, but it's fairly mild. As we throw in more epoxy, you can see I'm mixing 2 cans, and the reason for that is because I have a large tank. This is 2 motorcycle kits. So essentially it is 20 gallons capacity is what this is supposed to coat. All right, that'll help get it up just a bit. You don't want to put more than 1 ounce per kit, I believe is the way it works. If I did the math right. Guys, we've stirred for probably 3 minutes or so. Certainly more than 2. And now it's time to pour this bad boy in there. Try not to make a mess here. You can see it's pretty thick. I've heard other guys describe it like honey, and that's probably pretty accurate. Okay, time to start. I think the first thing I'll get is going to be these sides. Let me get my, sorry, got you out of frame. I'm going to get the hole plugged up over here. I'm just using a glove. There we go. Okay. And now I'm just going to start turning it. So I'll bring you back when I'm done with that and we'll drain it. Okay guys, I'm going to try to give you a picture of the inside. Good night. Okay, so there's a little bit you can see. It's doing really well. I've got it coated. It's been an hour now. So I'm gonna take you inside the tank itself here. See if I can get you some decent pictures. Can't get you too close in there because I'll end up getting epoxy all over the thing, all over the camera. It's fully coated. There might be a few spots in there that haven't got a ton, but I suspect most all of it's coated, even the mouth of that. And I'm going to take some lacquer thinner to the mouth of that because I really don't want that epoxy on there, on the sealing surface. So, by the way, you can see where I painted this as well, but it weeped out of those little weep hose that I had. So it is filling those holes, so that's great. Just so everyone's aware, this is what I drained out of it. And I could have got more if I'd have been patient enough. It would have drained even more, but it slowed down enough at that point. I just put it back on its, in this case, it's top down. We'll take a cheap pin here and throw it in here. You can see, I mean, it's some gnarly stuff. Now we're well over an hour now, and that's still, but it's cool. The temperature's pretty cool here. It's probably 65, and they want you to have 70-degree weather on this stuff. But I've got a heater on the thing now. This just gave me a little bit more working time. So not an issue for me personally. But yeah, I could pretty much paint or coat another tank with that amount of epoxy resin still. But I didn't want to leave that in. A lot of guys will say, oh, why don't you just leave it in the tank and that'll be thickened up. Well, typically you don't want these tanks, these big tanks that have some flex to them. You know, you can get a little bit of flex in that sheet metal, and you really don't want those having real thick epoxy on them. A thinner coat is generally better. Okay guys, I just mixed up some primer. That's the stuff I used, and now it's time to prime the tank. Unusual color for a gas tank, you're right, but it's what I had. That color is called clover white. Ignore the front end loader, it's not actually connected. It's just where I've got it parked. It just happens to fit in between there real well. But that's a Oliver 550. I have like 25 videos of the restoration of this tractor if that's something that interests you. But this is the clover white, so it's actually white with like a mint tint to it, a little green tint to it. And I had some of that left over, so I didn't have any black, which is probably what I would have painted it if I had it, but I didn't have any. Here's the tank completed. There's the bottom of the tank. I did go ahead and pull my drain plug out. As you can see, it's an Allen head, like a set screw kind of. But I pulled that out, and just that way that I didn't let the paint dry too tight there. And then I put some anti-seize there. There's my intake, or sorry, my output for my, this goes to my carburetor. The tank has cured long enough at this point. We can move it around a little bit. That epoxy has left a very shiny interior that just reflects the light everywhere. So it's hard for the camera to pick it up, but we're going to try. All right. You can see just a little bit of surface rust down on the end. That was an area that I could get clean, but just as soon as I got it clean, that would just get a little bit of surface rust on it right away. Not real sure why that was. You can see the rest is just ridiculously shiny and clean. And I did get the epoxy resin over that area as well. So anyways, that's that. Tank is like new, really. That's the end of this tank restoration, I guess. Yeah, I'm dressed fancier than I normally would be. We just come from church. So if you want to see more on this international truck, just stay tuned. Hit that subscribe button, hit the like button if you like it. If you don't like it, tell me what you didn't like about it. I will use your comments to try to improve, so they won't be for naught or in vain. But I hope that helps some of you. You see some of the mistakes I made with the using the evaporust. I should have just gone straight to the muriatic acid. It really was the way to go in my case. Now, I would say if you just have light surface rust, the evaporust is probably a good way to go because it's not going to injure or harm the metal. Keep in mind, I didn't have any weeping, any leaks anywhere until I used that muriatic acid. Really, if you want to save, in my case, I paid about 60 bucks for the evaporust. You could save that money and just go straight to muriatic acid, which I already had on hand here. Now, the evaporust isn't a complete waste because I drained it and filtered it, and I've got it back in the bottle. So I use it. I will reuse it over and over again until it's not working anymore. But anyways, just hopefully that helps some of you not make the same mistakes that I made. All right, so that's it. I guess I'm Chris with M7 Metalworks, and thanks for watching.